The MonsterVerse is no stranger to powerful titans and monsters, and one of the very first of these powerhouses were the Skullcrawlers. And now we get to see what one of these savage, starving beasts would become if allowed to evolve to a form many times more powerful than we have seen the species reach in the MonsterVerse. Remember how it seemed pretty clear that the big one, aka Ramarok, or the big cheese of the Skullcrawlers from Skull Island had bit the dust? Yeah, Godzilla has some epic fatalities in this series, but you can't deny this isn't in the running for the best kill yet in the MonsterVerse. After a lifetime of prowling Skull Island and the Hollow Earth, the menace had finally met its end. Now what I'm going to talk about next is not full canon, but what happens could be argued is authentic enough to at least be considered very soft canon. That of course is what happens in Godzilla vs. Kong vs. the Justice League. And this series brings to life what could happen to a Skullcrawler if it reached its final form, the Skull Devil. In this video, we're going to go over how the big one was brought back from the dead and then mutated into this hulking form that needed the combined efforts of both the titans of the MonsterVerse and the heroes of the Justice League to bring it down. It's big, powerful, and nasty, and I can't wait to share it with you all. This is Jacob, and welcome to Dangerville. To first find out how this very dead titan was brought back to life, we have to get a quick recap on the basis of this crossover done. The MonsterVerse and the Justice League have their universes slammed together, and in short, some wacky multiverse stuff happens that more or less combines Earth and both universes into one. Parts of the Justice League world fused with parts of the MonsterVerse, like Skull Island. Here, Green Arrow is finding out just how tough this island can be. Quick side note here, take a look at these rhino beasts. These are what appears to be a new species to the MonsterVerse, maybe something we'll get to learn more on in Season 2 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, but don't get your hopes up. Back to the story now, Green Arrow is having a real hard time. Dealing with criminals is one thing, but these animals, even the small ones, were deadly. But it wasn't just the Green Arrow who was on Skull Island, but also the League of Assassins. Side note again, these guys are your stereotypical ninja-like group of bad guys led by a semi-insane sorcerer type guy, Ra's al Ghul. This dude's hundreds of years old thanks to a special substance that comes from Lazarus pits, and this will play a big part in the big one's resurrection. The League of Assassins had somehow gained control of the skull left behind by Ramarok, and with it a devious plan was put in motion. They were to transport the skull across the planet to a mega Lazarus pit. Like seriously, is this a volcano? Now sadly, we never get to see the process of the skull actually regrowing flesh and a body. But we do get an epic showdown between a Lex Luthor controlled Mechagodzilla, the Titans, and the heroes of the Justice League. And then finally, we see the Lazarus pits work firsthand in the form of the Skull Devil. The effects of the pit did more than just bring it back to life. It mutated it to a hellish form that was epic to say the least. And this thing would rival the strengths of Shimo if not surpassing them, at least physically. The Skull Devil is massive, with no official size being given, but with plenty of reference images to go off of, we can make some guesstimates. Side note, just like most comic or cartoon series, the monster's sizes are inconsistent throughout the scenes of this comic. But for the sake of simplicity, let's say the monsters retain their sizes from the MonsterVerse. And with that, we can see that the Skull Devil towers over all of them, even Mechagodzilla. And yeah, that's a Batman Jaeger, just saying. The Skull Devil appears to be larger than even Shimo, who is the largest seen and still alive titan in the MonsterVerse yet. So based on Shimo's size, the Skull Devil is over 162 meters or 500 feet tall, and probably pushing 1,000 feet long. Appearance-wise, the Skull Devil retains the classic Skullcrawler look. 2 forelimbs with one giant head at the front, and a body that slowly reached out to a tail with no back limbs. But these features were now accompanied by thick armor plating made from dense titan bone, and razor-sharp spikes and edges that worked as both offensive and defensive tools. It's honestly one of the coolest designs you could think of for a mega Skullcrawler, and I'd like to see this sort of creativity in the MonsterVerse going forward with its villain design, outside of the comics. But beyond those upgrades, there doesn't appear to be any new special powers that the Skull Devil can wield, just brute force and aggression. and it seems like many of the big one's old Kong killing techniques were also retained with the resurrection, but with them, also some of the same weaknesses that we will get to soon. Epic fatality foreshadowing moment there, if you get me. With an army of Skullcrawlers, the Skull Devil and Mechagodzilla attacked Godzilla and Kong while the Justice League members were also busy at work trying to manage it all. The Skull Devil singled out Kong in this battle. This is likely due to the beast still having some sort of memory of their prior meeting, and it wanted payback. But this could have also been the natural instinct of this creature desiring Kong flesh that forced its attack. And Kong did all he could to handle this onslaught, but he was outmatched, overpowered. And just like in their last face-off, the Skull Devil wrapped its tail around Kong's throat and began to squeeze. But then, the most unlikely of things happens. The green power ring of DC lore placed itself on the giant hairy finger of Kong, and he summoned, you guessed it, his reliable axe. And with one clean strike, Kong hews the Skull Devil's tail, releasing himself from its grasp. Green Lantern Kong, that's a win in my book. With the Skull Devil now on a pain rampage, backup had finally arrived. Godzilla with Superman burst into action. Damn, this is awesome. The two aimed their powerful beam strikes at the back of the Skull Devil's neck, and together they drilled through its thick hide to reveal an opening. A weakness. Something Kong takes advantage of, and with a perfectly placed strike, drops the axe on the back of the Skull Devil's neck, obliterating its spine, killing it once again. And that's that. Poor old Ramarok, even with energy levels over 9,000, was put down again. Overall, the brief but exciting debut and exit of the Skull Devil was a hit in my eyes. This monster was amazingly designed, easily one of the most simple yet badass designs of any MonsterVerse themed creature. Sometimes these simpler, more old school designs just look way better than when the artists try to make the most wacky and bizarre thing ever. Armor-plated, spiky reptile monsters will always be an easy win in design choice. Let me know if you agree. The Skull Devil was a brute, easily comparable with Shima when it comes to physicality, as it took the combined efforts of some of the strongest fictional characters of all time to bring it down. And if the Skull Devil and Godzilla were to throw down 1v1, it would have been a bloody battle for sure. Residence, the Skull Devil, ain't she a beauty? As always, this has been Jacob, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.